what my background is. But so we're talking tonight with my good friend Maria about a dog named Salem, and we'll let her describe that a little bit more, maybe tell you a little bit about herself. But what you do see here is my new website, Natural Wellness for Dogs, where we're talking about canine nutrition, energy work, supplements, all things natural, and the ways that we can support our dogs. And so we have an interesting story to tell you about Salem, who was Maria's foster at one time, and she still stays in contact with his owner, and about his behavior and the things that have been going on with him, and then what we've done with some animal communication. So welcome, Maria, and just introduce yourself a little bit better than I just did, and then introduce us to Salem.
Thank you, Dana. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Maria, and Dana and I met through the work that we did through volunteer through one of our rescue groups. And I have learned how to do Reiki on dogs with Dana and raindrop on dogs as well. That is not my vocation. Or maybe that's my vocation, but it's not my real job.
Exactly.
But it's definitely my passion in learning about helping dogs. I am not as thorough as Dana is, but definitely she has helped me a lot with my dog and just getting to understand my fosters when I foster dogs. And it has been really, really helpful.
Yep. And so Maria's getting really good at this, and she does it a lot. She doesn't give herself enough credit for it, but she does it a lot with the fosters and helps other people start to understand their dogs better. And you're getting really awesome with behavior troubleshooting as well. So,
well, thanks.
So let's talk a little bit about Salem. So who is he, and how did he come to be in your life? And then we'll just work our way through where we are today.
Sure. So Salem is Salem came to our rescue group. I believe he was born in from a litter of a dog that we had. And so I believe he has 3 or 4 other siblings, and Salem was born deaf. And he was fostered by a couple, and he was adopted out to a couple. Unfortunately, that adoption it didn't fall through. He was returned by the owner, which was a female, and she was trying to train Salem to be a service dog or her personal training dog, because she's a trainer, like a board and train type person. Unfortunately, I think that Salem, and again, I don't have the information, but a lot of the training with Salem was with a shock collar. And so I don't know how well he received that, because I think Salem, and again, I'm just guessing, he may have some resentment from that. And so he was returned to me. I knew nothing about this because I didn't get any information other than he's being returned. He's just being a little bit possessive. And I said, okay, whatever. When I got him, and I think sometimes ignorance is bliss, because then it's like a blank slate and you're really not really worried about what could happen. And so I found out that Salem had a little bit of food possessiveness, not so much aggression, and also some of what we call high value toys or treats. He was possessive. So I have my own dog, Tigger, and she is a smaller dog. She's a itty bitty pitty. And she plays rough with dogs. So she was great with Salem, playing rough with him, and he loved it. And he was fine with her. But in learning, I had to make sure when I would find out if she had a high value treat, and that he would get, and he didn't attack her. He would just do all the show, as we say. He would just, that's it. And then, okay, and so take note of things. And so we never had any. Yes.
How old was he when he came back to you?
When he came back, I want to say he was about a year-ish.
Okay.
Maybe a year, almost a year and a half. I think he went with them when he was about 6 months. And I think he was over a year when he came back. So again, learning, and he did have some claiming behaviors, and I came to find out later that that was part of the reason why he was returned, because he had some claiming behaviors. And I think it was more because he was with this person for so long. He thought that he had to protect the person. And I think that that's when he started thinking that he had to protect other things. With that said, let me just say that Salem is a very smart dog, and I think he's too smart for his own good. That's how I say it. And Salem also requires for you to tell him who's the boss and what he can and cannot do. And those are things I started finding out with Salem, but I knew I needed a little bit of extra help, which is when I started doing raindrop on Salem. And I think it was really helpful when it came to just his emotions and things like that. But it was really cute because Tigger, my dog, she loves raindrop as well. And I think she felt neglected that I wasn't doing raindrop on her. So Salem got so used to raindrop that there were a couple of times where I would get the oils ready and Salem knew that raindrop was coming. And so all of a sudden Tigger would get on the couch with him, very close to him. And the first time that she did this, I told her, I said, well, you want raindrop too? And she just kind of stayed there. And so I started doing raindrop on 2 dogs at the same time, which I'd never done before. And I found that really interesting.
So I'm going to just stop for people who don't know what raindrop is. From your point of view, what is raindrop? We can send them my link. We'll post that in the notes and everything. But what led you to want to do that with him?
So because with most of my fosters, I have used raindrop, which is the use of oils, different oils, which could be, to help. It's almost like with humans, to release pent up emotions. It could be trauma, it could be anger, it could be resentment. And I'm putting human words to it because I don't know if that's exactly what the dogs feel. But, and so I have tried it with all of my fosters and I have seen very good results that I have, and I think we've talked about this before. There's been a couple where the change is so visible right away that, they go from, like not wanting to, like being almost shut down to being like, okay, I woke up, it's a new day and it's a new life. And then they change their behavior and they just get very mellow and just, it's almost like they let go of their past and move forward. And so that's why I thought it would be good for Salem to see, because again, that's the only part of his story that I knew. And I just thought whatever you're claiming or whatever, you just need to feel safe. And I think that was part of the raindrop. And Tigger, my Tigger also has some emotional issues as well. So she gets raindrop all the time and every little bit, relaxes her a little bit more.
Right.
Every time we do it.
And clearly she had fear of missing out.
She still does. It's like her mama.
So how did Salem receive raindrop, when you started that and where did it go from there?
So Salem really enjoyed it. I mean, it would, when I would do it, I first with him started about 2 or 3 times a week and then just went to once a week just to, make sure. And basically the claiming behaviors were almost nonstop. But with that said, I also made sure that he knew, for example, he plays hard and Tigger plays just as hard. But even though she plays just as hard, she's only 32 pounds compared to Salem, 65 pounds. And so there was a time where he would still want to play and Tigger would get tired. And so she would go in her crate to try to escape or get a break. And so he would follow her in the crate. So I would stop him and I made him realize that I made him wait and realize that he needs to wait until Tigger comes out of the crate when she's ready to play. And so he was fine because at that time we were working from home as well. I was working from home. And so Salem would lay on the couch, or not on the couch, on the floor, on the dog bed and wait for Tigger to take her nap and wait. But, he understood the rules.
Right.
And he knew what he could do and what he could not do. And I think that he benefited not only from the raindrop that relaxed him a little bit, but from also having a routine.
Yes.
And he was a big fan of routine.
Okay.
So trying to keep the same every day, basically eating at the same time. He knew where he was going to eat. He knew, you know, and he wasn't a big fan of crates. And so teaching them the crates were safe, and things like that. And he definitely got a lot better.
Good.
And then unfortunately, we also found out that Salem is not cat friendly because he thinks that cats make tasty snacks, and I have 2 cats. So because of that, you know, we ended up, his original foster parents were fostering some dogs and some puppies, and they ended up finally getting adopted. And they had said that if they got adopted, that they would foster Salem again. So that way there wouldn't be the, sorry, that was my dog eating a treat. And so they said that they would foster Salem again after the puppies left. And so they did. And so Salem went to stay with them. And then later on, Salem came back for, and I think what happened with Salem and them is that clear rules were not established. And so he, unfortunately, I mean, it's a great foster home, with that said. But I think it was more that, you know, the personality of the person also makes a difference. That we're very relaxed, and Salem needed full structure. And that was one of the things that he didn't get. He got plenty of love and stuff, but then it just required me having conversations with them, and they reestablished a routine. But I don't know what happened, because he got his claiming behaviors got a little bit worse. And so he sometimes goes after the television, depending what it's on. And he also goes after cars if he's riding in the car.
So you said Salem was deaf. What triggers him to, is visual that gets him into the TV or the car? Is it the motion?
I think it's maybe he gets startled.
With the motion.
Something startles him, yes. Because here at my house, he would just sit and be okay. And in the car, I mean, and he never had an issue with me in the car. You know, whenever we had to take him somewhere, he was fine. So I don't know honestly what happened. So I would think that maybe, but I have seen Salem get startled sometimes. And when he gets startled, he kind of like, but it's more out of fear. Does that make sense?
No, totally. I guess I'm just, we have talked about this part of Salem before, and I guess I'm wondering, what is it that triggers that if he can't hear because like when I see dogs who get interested in the TV, more often than not, it's they've heard them barking on the TV. They've heard a dog on the TV, but if he can hear, it can only be visual, I guess.
It has to be. And you know, the funny thing, it depends on what it is, because he's dog friendly. So it wasn't, and sometimes he would bark at dogs on the television. So I don't, but again, I can't quite pinpoint what it was, because I don't know what the starting point was. And a lot of times, if you can correct it when it first happens, then you correct it and it's okay. And I don't know that, you know, because I don't know that it was more like, oh, it's just a quirk of his. And that's fine, you know. I mean, but
correct him. Did you have to go step in between him and the thing that he's triggered on, or?
At my house, when he did that, I would definitely do that. But so we make, and just in case, because we have 2 televisions. So the television in my living room, it's lower. And so so instead of, because it's hard to correct when he goes after, and we were afraid he was going to knock that one. So we ended up just using the television in our den, which is on the wall, you know, up higher. And that way, if we had to correct, it wasn't like he was going to charge at the TV and then we'd have to, you know, we're out of television. But yes, I still don't know that I was able to correct it. I think the behavior was already ingrained, and I don't know that I know how to fix it. And I don't know if it's if he's still doing that in his new home or not. I haven't asked his dad.
Okay.
Because Salem got readopted, so, which is the great news. He found somebody that understands his quirks and you know, who he is, you know, challenging and not challenging. Because Salem, honestly, as much as I say all this, Salem is a good boy, and he just, you know, he just life happened, I guess. And I think he's a goofy guy, and he's just really cool. And this guy saw him for what he can be and for who he currently is, and works with what he needs in his behaviors. And so he knows that Salem's not going to go to the dog park. Salem is not going to, go and try to interact with kids, because Salem does not do well with kids. So, he has another dog. He has a first sister, and so he plays with her, and he plays really well. And when he goes out to see family or wherever, he takes his female dog with him, but he leaves Salem at home because it's just, it's easy. So Salem is not locked up or anything. He has a really good life. It's just he knows what Salem can handle and what he can't handle. So he's not going to put him in a situation where he's going to overreact and things like that. Even when people come and visit, he's in a different area to make sure that he doesn't get too possessive or anything like that. But he's doing fine, and I think that's good. Good ownership.
100%.
Yeah.
So what led you, besides wanting to, I know you and I talk a lot about, can we find a case study, right? Can we explore this so I get to practice my skills and all that kind of stuff. But what led you to want to do this for Salem? And I know we had Angela in as part of when I did a Reiki combo session with me doing part of my animal communication certification. So I had to practice on a certain number of dogs. And so I did that with no knowledge of Salem. I didn't know anything about him really. And then when I did the sharing of that experience, we included Angela in part of that discussion. But what did you think made him a case study? I'm sure it's all of this background, but was there more that led you to consider him?
I think for Salem, because regardless of everything that's happened with Salem, I still feel that honestly, I think he got his life had a chance, and then it was, not his fault that things happen. And I think that I thought it would be interesting because he's deaf. And so a lot of the things, at the beginning, we used to talk to him a lot. And then I think I was also the notion, since he's deaf, I'm just going to use the sign language and be very silent. But also because of everything that happened, like again, with the television, with his behavior being sometimes, up and down and just not saying that he wasn't predictable, but sometimes he wasn't predictable. And so I just really wanted to know what's up, Salem, and I just wanted to try to figure out what is it that changed his behaviors. So when you and I talked about that, I think the only thing that you knew was that he was deaf. And I purposely did not give you any information, maybe just some basic stuff, only because I again, it's just like raindrop. I don't understand it, but I see what happens, and I am left amazed at how things work, even if I don't understand them. So I know they're real. Whether I understand them or not, I don't know how it works. And so I wanted to see if hopefully Salem would tell us something, to see if we could help them,
Yeah. So I typically only ask for their name and their age. Right. And things from there. So I don't know that I actually remember all the things that I shared with you guys as a follow-up. I just remember this sort of awestruck moment for all of us. I do remember a couple of the pieces, but can you share what we learned?
Yes. So I actually wrote it down so we asked his dad for permission, because I know, Dana, you always said you need the owner's permission. And I which I find that really interesting, but I think that's really cool. And so his dad said yes. He said, sure, why not? And
how rude would it be, right? I mean, we know this is true, but how rude would it be if I just walked in your space and said, hey, Maria, I got all these questions for you and I need to tell me some stuff. And you're like, girl, I don't know You are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I do animal communication, I go in, and which sounds really weird to people, but I basically say, hi, Salem, this is who I am. I have permission from your dad to chat with you, and we take things from there.
Yes. And so I know I was saying so many notes when you were talking, because I wanted to share that with his dad, and his dad was open-minded. Again, I don't know if he believes it or not, but he was very open-minded. And the first thing that you said, which I found really interesting, was that Salem said, I am deaf, but I can hear. And he had a lot to say, you said, but he can hear in the terms of like body language, like the energy. And so Salem was saying, talk to me. I want you to talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just the sign language, because and maybe it is that when you speak to an animal or even people, the energy flows out from you, and they get your intentions correct.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we think about how many times you say something to Tigger, like, oh, what a good girl you are, or get your, whatever you call her, little toy, right? We have conversations with dogs all day long. Sometimes with deaf dogs, we only speak to them when we're giving them something to do, because they're not looking at us, right? We think they're not going to hear the things that we're saying. And we only give them sort of this sign language, which is a command or an action to take versus a conversation.
And for me, knowing that he was deaf, for some reason, I got into what I call now the bad habit of only using the sign language and not saying anything to him. And it was funny because my husband, when he was here with Salem, he said he always talked to Salem, which was funny, and I thought, why are you talking to him? He's deaf. And so, see, to me, that was, and I think that it seems that that's what Salem craves, for people to still talk with him. And so that way he can really read or hear people's energy, and things like that. I believe the other thing you said, and this was like a shocker, was one of the things that you got was a picture that he said that it was a picture of him riding in a convertible with a man with the wind in his face, and that was a good memory for him. And I'm going, well, I don't remember. So now, with that said, and I never told this to Dana because she only sees my SUV. My husband has a Ford Mustang convertible, but I didn't remember him taking Salem for a ride. Now, with that said, all of our foster dogs that we get, we always take them for a ride in the convertible, and they all loved it except for one. They have all loved going on the convertible with the top down. And I honestly didn't remember that he had done that, and I thought, well, no, they didn't. After the conversation, I shared the conversation with my husband, and I said, I don't remember him being in our convertible. Was he in our convertible? And he said, yes. He said, I took him a couple of times in the convertible. He loved it. And I went, what? so
and again,
I swear,
I have no way of knowing that.
Dana.
Yeah, no way to know that.
No way to know that. So that was amazing. And then another thing you said was that Salem also wanted a job to do. He was bored, I think, and he wanted a job. He also said he was happy where he was at, but he wanted a job, right? And I think you can elaborate on that one, because we talked about different things for him, and he wanted to run. That was it.
That
he
was one of the big things that I remembered. And then you guys shared with me that he currently does not have a fenced in space to do that. And Dad's schedule's a little hectic, a little busy. And so he truly is missing that opportunity to really let loose,
right?
Burn off energy and that sort of thing.
Yes, and he's in the process of building a fence, but I think it's just taking a little bit longer. And he just, his dad got into a little accident, so it's gonna be a little bit more. But I was just telling Dana that he right now went back just to give his dad a break while he heals, to his former foster parents, the original foster parents, and they have a big fenced-in yard.
Oh, good.
So he's probably having a
Loving it.
blast.
Except the
Hopefully
heat.
early morning because it's too hot,
Yeah.
but he's probably having a blast. Just at least he's getting some energy out, which is good for him.
Exactly. So this notion of having a job, I mean, I think there are many dogs that need to feel like they have something to do other than just to exist, right? And especially when he's in this sort of mode of he gets put away when company comes over, or all this structure that is sort of controlling to him. What does he have as an outlet to do something that fulfills him, that really brings him joy, not just play with the first sister or a walk with dad, or what are the things that are truly fulfilling, that are, I remember us talking about engagement activities with the dad, things that really embrace that sort of bonding scenario, and not just we're in the house together. And I'm not saying that that's what they are, but really something that is special between Salem and the dad. And I think all dogs need that, right? I mean, I think they all need something, but something that gives him purpose and meaning, and something to be proud of his achievements and his things that he can do for the dad in his life, whatever that might be. And I don't know what that answer is. We have to find it.
Yeah. I think Salem, and we were just talking about this earlier, it would be really cool if we could reach out to him again and just have another conversation. But I think overall I think he's doing well. But definitely, the fact that he said he wanted a job and that he wanted to run. And I just thought that was really, really interesting, that, because he loved, here in my house, I have 2 separate yard areas. So he had one that he would really get to play, and he got to play with Tager and, get a lot of that energy out, because he does have energy. He's still, he may be 3 now. He's almost 3 now. So,
That's
he's
very
ready to
young.
go.
That's very young.
Yeah. And so I think it's just finding that which is going to help with his energy. And like you said, something to make him proud. And I can see him being a proud dog, and not in a bad way. It's just something that makes him feel like he has purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, something that, even when we think of like a job, it doesn't mean that they have to be a service dog, or they have to be a therapy dog, or they have to sniff out something, right? Mm-hmm. But we can certainly teach them scent games. And when they master a skill like that, even if it's just for fun, even if it's just simulated activities, or a new training skill like roll over, right? How excited do we get when all that trial and error and trying to figure out what's going to get them through to do those things, do we get excited about, right? We're like, oh my God, you're so smart. And I think that's what he's looking for, is something to learn and then be able to continue to perform those activities and bring some pride and joy to his life and to dad, and make everybody happy. That's what he needs. Mm-hmm. Now I'm saying these are new words coming out of my mouth, but that's kind of the sense that I have about them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, what did dad do with that information? Do you know?
Now I think I'm not sure. Again, I haven't checked in with him much. And I don't know, in regards to the job part, I don't know. Obviously he's working on the fence, and that's major. And I think that he has taken him out I think he does take him for walks in the morning, but he tries. Again, Salem doesn't do well with children. And we know that. I don't know. I think, and one of the things that they told us was that he got scared by a child when he was younger. And again, it's one of those behaviors that wasn't corrected. And so he now wants nothing to do with children. So where he takes them for a walk, his neighborhood has a lot of children. And so he has to take them at certain times. So, but he does take them for walks, and he likes that, from what he said, and But the work part, I don't know what he has. I'm curious to ask him and see what he has done.
Yeah. I think that's important, right? And so, go ahead.
One more thing that I remembered. You also said that that his back hurt or something.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Maybe to seek out a chiropractor. I remember.
Yes, yes. And I gave him the information of the chiropractor. I would say he probably hasn't, but I can check with him. But I did tell him also, just in case, to start him on joint medication, and I think he has done that.
Oh, good. Awesome. Yeah, so it would be interesting for us to check in with Dad when he feels better from this accident he's been in. And you know, I don't think when we do animal communication or Reiki or the combo of the two or whatever these energy work modalities are, that it's a one and done kind of thing. Raindrop is not a one and done kind of thing. It is a let's peel back the layers and then see where that takes us, and we work through that. And I think it's important that if we are going to tap in and do quote unquote animal communication and say to the animal, what do you need? What message do you have for us? That we respond to that in some way, right? And so I know that's difficult for you and I because we're not living with Salem, you know, so I think people who are the active guardian and hear a direct message when we get it, hopefully that they can take an action to that from their session, you know. So I think it's important that we follow up with Salem and maybe follow up with Dad on some of these things as well.
Right. Now, Dana has also done a communication with my dog, so that was interesting as well, and we can leave that for another time. But
if you have time, go ahead. I'm good.
I think we have time, and I think because her and Salem got along so well,
Yeah.
like we can include Tigger. With Tigger, one of the things that we found, so she did one on my Tigger, and one of the things, so Tigger came from. The story of Tigger is that she came from an abandoned house. She was found at an abandoned house, and they think that she had been there for a while.
But I didn't know that till like the last week or so.
Yes.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that it was that long. And so animal control picked her up, and I believe she went directly to the home of the director or somebody. Because Tigger is too cute for her own good, but she's also a brat. And so, but I think she just has baggage. And so she then reached out to, after having her for a while, she reached out to to our rescue. And one of the board members took Tigger, and she was going to keep Tigger as her own dog. And I think she kept her for about a year, and then she got in a scuffle with her other personal dog. And ever since then, they just didn't get along. Now, if somebody,
clear, that's a very young dog in Tigger and a senior dog, right? With the other home. So that's not always a compatible relationship to start with.
Yes. And with that said, it was, so whenever I would go visit her and Tigger, when I first met Tigger wanted nothing to do with me. And then at some point, you know, after the scuffle and stuff, I went enough that I guess she accepted me. And Tigger could sit with me on the same couch while my friend was sitting with her dog on the other side of the couch, and she was fine. It's just we could not have them, you know, be running around by themselves without a leash or supervision. And so we never understood why they couldn't come back together and do that. And so when I visited Dana one time, I had Tigger, and I said, well, why don't we do one on Tigger and see? And when she asked what questions to ask Tigger, and I said, well, I just want to know why she doesn't get along with my friend's dog. And, you know, and I think that was it. I don't think that we asked much because, again, I don't want to ask anything, and, you know, to see. And I know that one of the things that you said after you communicated with Tigger was that the first word that you got from Tigger was heartbroken, right? And that she was heartbroken from her past life, but that she wasn't heartbroken anymore.
Right.
And also that, and then she asked why that she didn't get along with Gouda, and she said because she never felt that she belonged in that home, and that was really never her home. Right?
That's what I said.
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yes. And
Upset
so
Angela, right? It upset Angela.
yes.
So, and this is sometimes the hard part. We get a message that we weren't expecting to hear. And it's like, ooh, what do I do with this information now? But yeah, so Tigger said that where she was, she knew was not her home.
But I think upon reflection, after Angela received that message, she reflected on it and she came back and said, which made a lot of sense then after she thought about it, that she said when she got Tigger, she never really, it was more of a roommate situation, how she felt about Tigger, even though she wanted to keep her and all that. But, and then she realized that she never really felt like she belonged there, but it was more, again, because it was more of a roommate thing compared to the love that she has with her main dog.
Mm-hmm.
As to how Tigger was, it wasn't really like, okay, Tigger's home. And I don't think she ever, after much reflection, she realized that, yeah, then maybe that's what it was.
Right.
And
I don't mean to put any words into Angela's point of view, but it's certainly always possible for people, once you see a scuffle and the scuffle involves, your heart dog, so to speak, and then here's this new one, which one takes the brunt of your emotion?
mm-hmm.
Right. So
Right.
there's a layer of that at play.
Yes. And I think also, but also after, I'm trying to think. Yeah, so after we thought about that, I mean, I think that when Tigger came to my house, and it was a temporary situation, quote unquote, which she never left.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was, but I remember that when Angela asked me to foster Tigger, it was because she was getting a new litter of puppies. And she said, I have a lot, and Tigger's not really getting as much attention. And can you keep her? She said, in a perfect world, I would. Now, Angela loves Tigger.
Sure.
And so she wanted somebody to adopt Tigger that she knew, so that way at least Tigger would be forever in her life. And so obviously we have her now, and she will be forever in her life. But when we first got her, she had some residual
baggage,
medical, not only emotional baggage, but physical. We had to work on a lot of stuff. And so Dana, thank goodness, we worked on her physical well-being with a liver cleanse, and then changing her food and adding some oils. Again, she loves her raindrop, and then but by doing that, I never really thought, because I said, but is she happy with us? Because we feel, and I don't even know how she wiggled her way into our hearts, because we would have never thought. Every time we tell Tigger that we love her, we laugh about it, because then we think, I can't believe we just said that. But I think it's the same thing, because I when you said that about Tigger, about her being heartbroken, or like she never felt like she belonged, I asked you, well, but is she happy with us? And she said, absolutely, she's happy with you. And she seems very happy. And after that communication, Tigger actually became more mellow to some degree. It was like she's still a little nuts when I get home and stuff, and we work on that on a daily basis. Much better, but it's just Tigger. But overall, she's definitely more mellow. And you've taught me, Dana, again, and from Salem, and I think this almost like learning from experience from other dogs, by Salem saying that he wants people to talk to him. I think it's given me like also good advice for me to do that with other dogs. So I do that a lot with Tigger as well. So when Salem went to his foster parents just now, I transported him. And it was funny because I said, okay, Salem, you had this conversation with Miss Dana, so you want to talk? Let's talk. And so I talked, it was a 30-minute drive, and I talked the whole way. And he had to correct a couple behaviors again in the car, but then he was fine, and he just sat behind me. And he just kept looking. He just sat staring forward at me. And I said, okay, well, I guess you want to hear what I have to say. And I talked the whole way. I didn't even know what I was saying half the time. I just started singing and whatever. And he just seemed like, okay, she's talking. So it was really cool to see that part too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, fun. So I just have a question about like Tigger, because I know you were here for a few days and we did that whole session. And when you say she's more mellow, you were saying that like the very next day.
Mm-hmm.
What were your observations about mellow? What does that mean to you? Was she, in fact, I'm not going to put words in your face. What does her becoming more mellow mean?
So Tigger, so you mentioned something about Tigger as a joke earlier, as that she has FOMO, fear of missing out.
Right.
And that fear of missing out becomes a little bit of anxiety sometimes. And now she's not destructive or anything like that. She goes in her crate, she's great. But I think that she gets very anxious to the point where, again, she has to jump on you. She has to, like, where are you going? If I go anywhere and I get up, Tigger is right behind me, no matter where I go. She's like those kids that, you know, wait for you in the bathroom, like children that you will never go to the bathroom by yourself. And so, yeah, that's how, and you saw that she, you know, always, no matter where I went. And if I left, she would be looking at the door, waiting for me to come back and all that. And so the next day, I know there was a time where I'm like, where is, because it's almost like I realized that I got used to having her behind me all the time, even though it's not a healthy thing. And one time, because sometimes when Tigger's not near me, she may be getting in trouble. So again, like a kid. And so the one time I went, where's Tigger? And I looked and she had gone in her crate and just laid down. And I went, wow, she doesn't do that much. And so, and lately, and so then we got home, and the one thing that she does now, it's if I can go to the bathroom in peace, or I can, you know, or I will get up to go do something, unless I go to the kitchen, but that's just more because she's food insecure, even though she's not, she shouldn't be. But she stays on the couch. And one thing that I didn't tell you that I have noticed ever since, she has now become closer to my husband. Now she'll never be as close. She's my heart dog. I mean, 100%.
Right.
She's the dog version of me, quirks and all. But with my husband, because I think she has like a little bit of fear of men, it was just more like, okay, you're here and you exist and you feed me, but I don't have to hang with you. When I wasn't home, she would come to the crate and stay in her crate, and he would be on the couch. He would call her and do all that, and she'd never come. Now there's times we're both on the couch and we call him, I'm Mama and he's Uncle Daddy, because he was Uncle Foster Dad first, and now he's Uncle Daddy. So we'll just say, oh, you know, and he'll say, oh, come to Uncle Daddy. And she'll just go and sit with him, and she'll give him kisses, and then she'll sit and snuggle with him. And that was unheard of before that. So yes, so by mellow means I think she's not as scared and more trusting of not just me, but
it sounds like some of the insecurity has washed away a bit.
Absolutely, it has.
That's awesome. All right. Well, is there more you want to tell us about Salem or Tigger, or anything that you would like to share about, you know, takeaways why others might want to consider Reiki or raindrop or animal communication? I mean, this has been wonderful, and anybody listening hopefully is seeing that there are some amazing possibilities. But any wrap-up thoughts from you?
I think the wrap-up thoughts, just based on what I've seen when it comes to Reiki, when it comes, and this whole animal communication is brand new to me. So anybody watching this, if you have never heard or experienced it, you got nothing to lose by trying it. I mean, honestly, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So I would at least give it a chance. You've got, again, it's not going to hurt your dog or your cat or whatever animal you have.
Right.
But you may find some things that you weren't. Again, I think it's good for you and it's good for the dog. And I think it's good for your relationship with them. Again, I have seen Tigger, at least that's an example for Tigger. I have seen Tigger, again, let go of some insecurities, has made her a little bit more confident. It's a process for her, but at least she feels comfortable and safe and happy. And I couldn't really say that before. And so again, even if I don't understand it, I see it working,
That's awesome.
and therefore you should give it a chance.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
So
thank you,
for-
Dana.
Yeah, visit caninecoach.dog or naturalwellnessfordogs.com. One is focused on training and behavior, and then the